everyone and welcome back to Fournilwrittenalloverit. It's great to have you with us yet again. Thank you for your company for my very early League One predictions. Now, this is very, very early for the upcoming 2023-24 season. It's been all over Twitter. It's been hot topic of conversation amongst friends of mine. So I thought, why not? Let's sit down. Let's make a video. Let's make this happen. Quick reminder, we've got some merch out. These are class for the summer and beyond, and they've been flying off the shelves. This is quite literally the last navy one I have for the time being. So if you want one that I've stuck on my head, get on there. Not that you would, but get down to the link in the description. Discount code predictions10. It's going to be valid for this video. It's also going to be valid for the video where we come back in about a month or so's time. More on that in just a moment. But yeah, get down there, get yourself one of these. There's plenty of other stuff. The polos are really nice. Let me grab a polo. Bear with me 2 seconds. There'll be a bit of a quick cut and I'll be back with a polo. Hold on. Here we go. Here's the polo, and through the magic of editing, went to school to do this. Ready? Boom! Have some of that. Not looking too shabby, embroidered and everything. So if you want yourself a polo, if you want yourself a hat, if you want to complete the look, then get down there. Links in the description. Look at that. Oh, bosh. Right, I think it's time that we use the magic hand to yeah, get cracking on with the video. I think that's probably about time that we did that. There's 2 ways of doing this video. One of them would have been to base this solely off the season that's just gone in terms of the teams that will go up. So i.e. Barnsley finished as close as you can to the championship without actually being there, so therefore they should be a dead cert to go up this season. I'm not saying that's not the case, but that's probably not the way I would want to do it. The way the other way we could have done it, and this is the way I am going to do it, is we're going to consider circumstance surrounding a football club. We'll look at both financial personnel wise. We'll consider the kind of transfer window we're expecting. I'm also basing quite a lot of my thinking off retained lists as well. That's made up quite a lot of the thought when going into planning this for you. So, and how strong these teams will be heading into August, and then ultimately we'll come to a decision, or I have come to a decision, which will determine who will be challenging for the championship and which teams will be facing League 2 football this time next year. But it is really important to stress that this is not my final League 1 predictions for the season. That video will be coming out very, very soon, probably the weekend before the season gets going. So we're thinking sort of end of July, very start of August sort of time. That is when I'm thinking of doing that. We will go through 1 to 24, 24 to 1, whichever way I decide to do it, probably 24 to 1, and I will pop a team in each and I will go, right, that's it, that's locked in for the season, and then we'll come back at the end of the season and look at what an absolute plum I was putting certain teams in certain positions, and you can all have a go at me because that's the way these things work. The main reason for this video will be to assess how well teams have done over the summer transfer window. If I say a team is destined for League 2 this time next year, or is going to get relegated from League 1 this season, this upcoming season, we'll be able to see how far these teams have come. If a team goes out and has an absolute barnstormer of a transfer window, then their prediction, the upcoming piece that you're about to see, may well change. There's plenty of off-field and on-field action to come over the summer, so we'll see how right or how wrong I am in a couple of weeks when we do the full list. To make sure you don't miss a moment of that, and to stick around for everything else coming up over the summer and into this season and beyond here in the channel, drop a subscribe down below, leave the video a like. If I do okay with these, if you think by and large I've got them pretty much spot on, drop us a like. And if there's anything you wish to clarify from what I've said, that is the beauty of the comment section down below. Please head down there and leave your thoughts on. Watch the video first by all means and see what I've got to say and where I've put teams, and then you can have your say down below. There's a lot of very intelligent football minds out there, and I'm always keen that these kind of videos stimulate debate. So if you want to get down there, join the discussion, join the conversation, it'd be great to read what you've got to say. Before we get going, a common theme I've seen from Pompey fans and fans of other football clubs that are going to be up there and trying to push and challenge and hoping that their team challenges for next season, this season, people go, how weak is League 1 this year? Or how worse off are we with X team or Y team or whatever? General consensus is that this is one of the weakest League 1 seasons that we've had for quite some time, whether that's the likes of Plymouth and Ipswich and Sunderland and some of the great teams that we've seen in this division so far leaving us by now, include Sheffield Wednesday on that list, of course. Or is it more an overall clear out of some of the big fishes and we're now left with maybe a handful of teams, whereas before we'd have 5 to 10 teams that are really desperate to get out of the division? We are still one of them. Many would say, well, look, on paper, Pompey must make the most of what looks like a pretty poor League 1 season. However, I'd be more along the lines of, if we can get it right over the summer, it is a more favourable campaign for sure, but I think it's probably upwards of half the teams in this division will be thinking we could give it a real good go for the playoffs this season, or at least look to push into that direction. And there will be some teams that have really good summers, there will be teams that have consolidation summers, there will be complete clear outs, there will be transition seasons for this upcoming new season that we're about to enter, so that there's loads of different bits and pieces going on in League 1 this year. I'm going to be careful with the weak League 1 argument for now. I'm not sure what kind of business is going to be done with Pompey. I'm not sure what other teams are going to do at this moment in time. You can have a pretty good guess at some of the likes of types and the profiles that some of these teams are going to be wanting to bring in and areas that they are desperate in need of strengthening. But of course, the window is not yet open. There have been a kind of a handful of bits and pieces of business done in League One already, but nothing on the scale of what we will see when the window opens in a couple of short weeks' time. So looking forward to when that happens. Here's how it's going to work then. I'm going to start with the teams that I think will be relegated from League One this upcoming season. I'm then going to look at the ones that will narrowly avoid relegation, i.e. the great escapees, if you want to call them that. Then we'll look at who will do a Pompey this season and the last 3 seasons and miss out on the playoffs just or quite significantly, but still be up there and trying to pull your weight around and challenge for it a little bit. Then we'll move on to the playoff positions and then those all-important top 2 places. Before I go any further, it would not surprise me if none of the League 2 teams that have come up this season don't go back down again. I think it's really one of the nature of this kind of League One season. It's always tricky to judge pre-transfer window. You can't make a concrete prediction right now. There aren't going to be any. There might be some great shouts in here that I look back on a period of time and go, wow, that was great that I called that early. But also there's probably a few that I'm going to go, wow, that was completely off the mark and I got that massively wrong. So here we go then. 24th position, Carlisle United. I don't want this to come across as a lazy prediction just for me to go with the team that has come up in terms of the winning the playoffs to go straight back down again. I don't think that would be a fair brush to paint Carlisle with. Bradford were poor against them. Stockport had a lot of injury issues. Obviously that doesn't take away from getting promoted to League One, and I think any team that does that should be massively congratulated and should be really proud of themselves. It's coming up to 10 years since Carlisle were last in the 3rd tier. Many people wrote them off this time last season, and then 6 months later everyone's going, wow, Carlisle have really surprised us. So there is a very good chance they may do that again, and Carlisle fans will be looking at us thinking, look at all these people that wrote us off before the start of the season and now look where we are. However, I think the quality and the calibre of players that they're going to need, recruitment's going to be key. Recruitment's probably going to be the biggest for Carlisle of any other League One team this season in terms of making sure that they can make that step up, because it is quite a significant jump and maybe people don't quite realise how much of a jump it is, but it is a jump. I think for them to avoid finishing rock bottom, which is where I'm going to put them now, and avoid relegation, I think recruitment is going to be really important. Never like to do this, but rock bottom right now for me, Carlisle United. But that very easily could change very, very quickly. 23rd place Cheltenham, they're a real worry for me at the moment. They're going to have some really key losses. 20 goals a season, and Alfie May is going to go flying out the door in a moment. Charlton look like to be the ones making the first bid, making the first move. I'd like to hope he comes to PO4 as well. I think he's in demand for a lot of other places. We shall see where that one ends up. They'll be without Caleb Taylor, an excellent goalkeeper in Luke Southwood, and their director of football is going as well. For Cheltenham, it's very much how they look to recoup those losses, and in terms of keeper recruitment, I wouldn't be too worried because I think that's an area that they've really got spot on in the last couple of years. But the question is, how replaceable is Alfie May's contribution to this team, and how do they go about replacing said contribution? I'm really concerned for Cheltenham. Plenty of time to sort themselves out. Of course, they've kept the spine of the team in Keenar, Bonds, Freestone, Long, but I'm going to go for second from bottom for Cheltenham for now. 22nd place, Stevenage. A little bit of a connection to Stevenage. John Messina actually won them promotion to League One and allowed them to play League One football as a direct consequence of the goal he scored 12 years ago now. They've kept Danny Rose, Sweeney, Roberts, but I think all Stevenage fans are in agreement at this moment in time that a major rebuild is needed in their squad. They're obviously really keen on having Alex Gilby back, and he's now made the move to MK Don, so I think that might be a bit of a blow. They're light in midfield, not a lot of pace out wide. If Steve Evans can build a squad to compete, then that might completely change how I feel about them right now. They've made a few early signings as well. I think Nick Freeman and Alex McDonald are really good places to start, particularly with the latter in terms of the experience of Alex McDonald. I had them down for 24th when I first started thinking about making this video. However, those two signings have kind of swung it a little bit. I'm going to go for 22nd for this moment in time, and maybe even higher in a couple of weeks. 21st, Wigan. I'm just going to call it how I see it with this one. At this moment in time, which is really important to stress, there's so much off-field uncertainty, it is untrue. It's currently a -8 point deficit they're going to be starting the season on. It may even be extended to -12 at this point. I can massively sympathise with Wigan fans. We've been there, administration, liquidation, and minutes from non-existence. I remember the day very well. Ultimately, though, if you throw everything at League One promotion, you throw everything at it hoping something sticks, and it does stick, and then you can't sustain yourself as a consequence, then the owners really have to take the brunt of the blame for that. And right now, any positivity from Wigan fans is always going to be on the condition if they can get themselves sorted out. If they do so, I think my final League One prediction for them will be an awful lot higher. However, at this moment in time, I see them occupying 21st place. Avoiding relegation, I'm hoping Cambridge, although the sheer number of players being released on their retained list a couple of weeks ago is a little bit of a concern. Fleetwood have off-field issues. Many many have them to go down this season. I don't think that's going to be the case, provided the quality in that squad. Port Vale may struggle. I think the managerial appointment of late was a little bit underwhelming for many Vale fans. If Leyton Orient keep their squad together, I think they'll be okay. If they don't keep that squad together, I think it might be a relatively short League One stay for them. Now, for those teams to miss out on the playoffs, I think a brief word on two teams, Exeter and Bristol Rovers. I could see some really good results coming from them this season. The quality in those squads, if they can keep their groups together, not quite in my shouts for playoffs at the moment, but certainly two teams that will raise a few eyebrows. Exeter losing some really key players from their starting 11, something to consider. You're thinking Jay Stansfield, Giovanni Brown, Collins, Key. Can they replace that quality with their budget? Potentially a move for Sam Nombe elsewhere as well. You can say that, can't you? Elsewhere as well. Peterborough and Charlton, I can see giving the playoffs a pretty good crack, wondering if Cheltenham will lose Raksaki and end up suffering as a consequence. A Charlton fan, Marcus, I spoke to, told me that it will be a mid-table finish again, with the floor being much lower than the ceiling is high for them. All that does hinge on a potential takeover, which is in the works as we speak, and they're another club likely to be a beneficiary of a weaker League One season this year. Big opportunity for that move for Alfie May to Charlton, as I mentioned earlier on. That could be really, really important for them. I think Lincoln will have a good season. Also, Oxford United fans will be hoping for a much higher finish than last season. Wickham, without Gareth Ainsworth, could be in trouble. They're heading into their first full season with him not at the helm. I think they're likely to consider this a transitional season following his departure. Right then, let's look at the top of League One. First place, Derby County. I'm a massive Paul Warne fan. I think he's an excellent manager, and I don't get tired of citing his track record from promotions in terms of getting up out of League One. He's a serial promotion winner. I think there's a lot of pressure for him to succeed this year, a lot of early expectation and anticipation for what this group could and should achieve. They did have what looked like a pretty solid playoff spot for what was a long period last season under him, and obviously narrowly missing out. I think they'll go all the way this year and deliver what that club really needs. If I'm completely honest, my personal experience of Derby last season, they're pretty two non-events really. 0-0 at Fratton Park and a much more lively 1-1 draw at Pride Park. They demonstrated a lot of quality that day, but didn't respond well to Colby scoring after the pressure they put on us. The belief in the honesty of football from their manager alongside a solid squad. You look at Wildsmith, Erin Cashin, James Collins, Mendes Lang, they're all under contract. Means at the moment they are my League One champions for this time next year. However, they do have probably half the squad they need to be able to achieve that, and considering they were a squad of 5 at the start of the season just gone, I think they're expecting a lot of marquee signings and some really big transfers this summer. So I'm more than confident that they will go into August and head into the start of August with a really, really strong squad ready to compete right at the top end. Second place, Barnsley. Bear in mind the last game I watched live was Barnsley Wednesday at Wembley, so without wishing for that game to cloud my vision of the overall picture here, I can see Barnsley being really strong this season upcoming. They were absolutely fantastic in the final. They played with 10 men for what turned out to be a really lengthy period of time. You're thinking about that Luca Connell chance, exemplary conduct throughout, assured on the ball, very few mistakes. They were clinical in moments when they needed. It could have sent them to the Championship on another day, that chance, if he just thought about it slightly differently, and it's literally a really fine margin when it comes to that kind of thing. No surprises with their retained list. If they can keep Michael Duff, I think that's really key to their success. That core group is going to stay together, hopefully. That will please a lot of their fans. Perhaps a couple of additions with ball carrying threat. I think they've got a really good shot at a Championship return for the second time of asking for this upcoming season. Third place, Blackpool. I think this could be a controversial one. I'll reiterate, in a couple of weeks' time, this could all change. Right now, Blackpool fans seem by and large confident that they can cut it in League One next season. News of Neil Critchley's arrival / return is really music to their ears up in that part of the world. He, of course, led them to promotion via the playoffs from League One during his first spell in charge at the football club. There's a very strong possibility he's going to do that again. He still knows a lot of the players at that club really well. Two things worthy of note. Critchley's managerial career hasn't quite perhaps taken off in the way in which he'd hoped to. Also, Jerry Yates looks like he's on the move this summer. There's a number of suitors. To what extent that will be to Blackpool's detriment without a suitable summer replacement, we'll have to see. Fourth place, Bolton. When you put aside the loss of James Trafford and Connor Bradley, who are really key to their success last season, equally as respective as each other, there is still a really talented group at Bolton for this upcoming season. Ricardo Santos walked into a lot of League One teams of the season. You're looking at Dion Charles, Carl Dempsey, Adebayo. I think there's a really core group of talented players there. I expect Bolton will be more than up for it this season. I remember them falling apart 3-1 when we beat them under the lights at Fratton Park. It was one of my favourite games last season. Equally, they completely ripped us to shreds up at their place 3-0. So if they invest how they should, they could win the league, but I think fourth place is just about right for the time being. Fifth place, Pompey. One of two things will happen. Either the investment will be made in the playing squad, Messino and Hughes will go out and nail all the signings that they want and build a group on top of what we already have to go out and compete. It is about time that we gave it a good go, and there are certainly the conditions there for that. On the other hand, there's every possibility that we fail miserably. Of course, I don't think think this club can I don't think this club can really they can't afford to have a repeat of what's come before during our 7th season in the division. The Fratton faithful somewhat restless as it is, and the club and the city could really do with something to shout about again, something to mobilise the fan base, and I think giving ourselves a decent shot of promotion this season is something that will do just that. The reason for the 5th place prediction right now, I don't want to overstate it by getting on my high horse and only disappointing myself and others. Of course, I'd love to see us push higher. I think there's a very good chance we will. I'm aware of what we're up against in terms of competition elsewhere. I'm also keen to be positive and back the group of boys that we have alongside the incomings, which I'm expecting double figures of, and I really hope that happens. As we said on the channel before countless times, Colby Bishop and Joe Morrell are really key to the success of the squad in this upcoming season. Quite a lot of confidence at the moment that those two will be sticking around. Added to the squad we have currently alongside what I'm hoping will be some impressive additions, I've got everything crossed for a really successful season. 6th place, Reading. This could end up being changed. I can see the arguments for League One being Reading's home for a little while, joining that list of the dreaded list of the Wednesday, Ipswich, Sunderland, Pompey, all teams who have frequented this division when they wouldn't have wanted to, and look who the only team is left on that list now. I think it's the nature of this league for any relegated side to push top 6 is a positive, and I think Reading might just do that. They have significant FFP issues by the sounds of it, so however that develops over the summer could polarise a lot of thinking in terms of where they will finish. My one major thing with Reading is the arrival of Chris Wilder, or the pending arrival of Chris Wilder, whether that happens or not. Many will question the resolve at Pompey if Wilder relocates there when it didn't happen back in January and all that came with that. I think that's a chat for another time. I know it didn't quite happen for Wilder at Middlesbrough. They were incredibly cutthroat with him at Watford, but they always are. You've only got to look at the Rob Edwards story at Luton to tell you everything you need to know about that one. But I think Wilder could really make a success of things at Reading, and I think unless he's in the job with his hand tied behind his back, he needs backing, of course, at Reading, and to the extent he will receive that is yet to be seen. Equally, why would he go there and take the job without the financial assurance that he's going to be backed in the transfer window? So interesting to see how that one pans out. There we go then. There is the top and the bottom in my mind as it stands. Just how I'm feeling right now. Very much reserving the right to go back and change these predictions for when we do our full final League One predictions here on the channel. Make sure you subscribe, as I say, to not miss a moment of that. Of course, there are some teams that didn't get a mention at all. They will get an in-depth look at in our final League One predictions. Don't forget, we've got so much to come over the summer. Really excited to bring it to you off to Malaga in a couple of weeks' time. Really excited to bring you that. We've obviously got a load of transfer stuff to come before then. And of course, the League One season, which gets going back in August. And do not miss any of the unmissable action. It's going to be right here on Fournilwrittenalloverit. For now, keep the faith. See you next time. And as always, play up Pompey.